Hello BookTube, this is Weekend Bails. Ordinarily, I would save all of the books I read or bailed until Friday with weekly reads. However, I don't want to deal with these books any more than I have to, so I'm going to go ahead and do a special Weekend Bails to talk about the crap I try to read over the course of this weekend. Starting with A Brief History of Seven Killings by Marlon James. This is a novel set between 1976 Jamaica and 1991 Jamaica, with a period in the United States. The main connection, I think, within the novel is the figure of Bob Marley. This novel won the Booker Prize back in 2014, and shortly after it won the prize, I tried it for the first time and made it to the first chapter and bailed on it. I would return to A Brief History of Seven Killings in 2023 with my 10 Contemporary Classics I Must Bail Redeem project. So, at the end of 2022, Kieran of Keates Books created a trio of videos of top 10 lists dealing with classics. Classics before the 20th century, classics of the 20th century, and classics of the 21st century, which would be contemporary classics. And I was watching Steve Donohue's version of that video and recognized that some of the books on his list I had bailed on. So I thought it would be an interesting project to make a list of 10 novels who could be called contemporary classics that I have bailed on and give them a redemption shot. I bail quite heavily, and sometimes I will come back to a book that I had previously bailed on and give it a second or third or sometimes more, by which point I really should just say, it's the book, and just leave it be. I get another look at it, which I call bail redemptions. If it's successful, which does sometimes happen, it's a bail redemption achieved or successful. But if it's a failure, it's a bail redemption rejection, which that attempt to bail redeem A Brief History of Seven Killings was in 2023. I did get a little bit further. I think I made it to the second chapter. And then there was this most recent attempt to bail redeem for Misery May, which again ended in failure with the second chapter. I think ultimately, I don't think Marlon James and I get along. So I think I am done with it. Although, if I ever if it shows up in an haul video, I'm truly done with it, which I really do need to get. This part of my library really should be the most fluid. After I bailed on A Brief History of Seven Killings, I decided to once again rearrange my library. Classics, canonical, modern, and contemporary fiction, poetry, and drama are currently over here. History's over here, starting with this little bookcase here. And I actually like how this looks. I'll probably make a separate video tomorrow to show you the changes of what I did. I like it, but given how things turned out this weekend, I am sorely tempted to move one of those bookcases back into the little manga room so I can put more manga on it, because yeah. Anyway, but I think also maybe I should just buy a new bookcase, and that new bookcase would be going into the little manga room. We shall see. Anyway, On to the next bale. La Serenissima, The Story of Venice by Jonathan Keates. So this is a study of Venice. It's not quite a history of Venice. It's more something else. I picked it up last year because I am fairly interested in Venice. And I'm trying to find a good history of Venice. This failed miserably. This book was incredibly boring and really just... I didn't like the writing at all. The introduction was thankfully short, but the prologue was what the heck? And the 2 chapters I read just did not do anything for me at all, so this book is gone. I don't think I'm going to give it a Bell Redemption shot. I also dipped into a little more Red Sun on the Human by Gillian and Conoley. As I've mentioned many times, me and this collection of poetry have a very on-off reading relationship. This reading attempt and my last one was not very good. I have read this collection a few times, and I probably should just leave well enough alone, but yeah. So I really should have just read some manga this afternoon, but I didn't. And to round off this, well, even though this does not technically count as a bell because I had no intention of ever actually reading the entirety of this anthology, and it is Tales of Terror, 58 short stories chosen by the master of suspense, who may or may not be Alfred Hitchcock. So I thought Alfred Hitchcock would have been decomposing by the time this book came out, but anyway. So the editor and probably the person who actually chose the stories is Eleanor Sullivan. Although I will, once again, when I do the show notes, leave this as Alfred Hitchcock in air quotes. So I picked up this anthology, or this anthology was a gift. My cousin, I'm assuming, was getting rid of some of his books, and he gave them to my aunt, I'm assuming to either put in a yard sale or to dispose, or, well, he gave them to his mother, who is my aunt. And she decided to give me some of his books. Some of them I have already sent on their way to hopefully other homes, but this was one that I ended up keeping. And I have a suspicion of why my cousin got rid of this book. The title is Tales of Terror, which would imply that this should be a horror anthology. But from what I've dipped into this is actually more of a crime anthology than it is any type of horror. So, I started with Killed by Kindness by Nidra Tyre, and it's about a husband and wife who are mutually having affairs. And instead of doing the smart thing and getting a divorce, they convinced themselves that getting a divorce would be irreparably harmful to the other spouse, so the best thing to do would be to just kill them. And at the end of the story, they kill each other. I think I also tried Just a Minor Offense as well by John F. Souter, and I didn't get on with that one. And Never Trust an Ancestor was, and so just, yeah, this collection is gotta go. Just, it's gotta go. So, anyway, BookTube, that was Weekend of Bells. Hopefully, the rest of my reading week will be much more pleasant than this pile of crap. Anyway, BookTube, until I see you Monday with at least 1 or 2 videos, thank you, have a great evening, and stay safe.